John 10:10 says, I've come that they may have life and have it to the full. Not only does Jesus just want us to exist on this world, but he wants us to have an abundance of life. So before I became a Christian, I know I've told this a little bit before, I used to find joy in some other types of things. Mainly it was just my friends and living in a small town, getting into trouble. I spent my weekends drinking and smoking pot. But even though I engaged in these things, and at the time they made me happy, I still went home and most nights cried myself to sleep or just was depressed and just unhappy, and life just really wasn't all that great for me. And I remember making memories with my friends, but looking back, they're just memories. Like, they didn't change my life, they didn't affect me, they were just stuff to do when I was bored. But after I got saved, I started living my life differently. I started living God's way, and weird things happened. Like, I started laughing and feeling happy all the time, and even though my family was still broken, and even though my lifestyle was still, like, I was transforming into the person who I needed to be, I just had this joy inside my heart that kind of carried me through the rough stuff. And even though my mom and I still bickered and my family was still broken, like, I still enjoyed life more than I had while I was drinking or doing other things. And I realized that living for God requires a choice and a change of doing things my way and choosing to do things his way. So the other day, I was late for class, and I saw my glasses sitting on my desk, and I thought, should I go grab them or should I go to class? And I just have to tell you guys that I'm blind. I'm so blind. My glasses need to be on my face, or I just don't function. I can't see, and people are waving, and I'm just like, who are you? Like, they're waving at someone behind me, because you know that awkward, like, hey, I'm waving, but you're not looking at me, you're looking at someone. So I didn't want to be awkward. But people get really offended when you don't wave back at them, and it's like, I couldn't see you. I couldn't focus in my classes because I couldn't read the board, and I'm sitting there, like, trying to take notes, and it wasn't working. And so that entire day, like, I got through it, but it was mediocre at best. I don't remember, like, seeing the colors of all the leaves, and I don't remember enjoying anything about my day because I couldn't see it. And I returned to John 10:10, and I say, I'll say it again, I've come that they may have life and have it to the full. And I want to ask you, are you striving to your full potential, or are you just surviving? And I went and I looked up abundant, because my entire sermon is about living an abundance of life. And it defines it as present in great quantity, more than adequate and over-sufficient. There's just an over amount, and that's what abundance means. And there's a band, and there's a lyric in this band, because that's what bands do, they sing. And it says, there's more to living than being alive. And I really empathize with that, because we can live through life and just walk in apathy, or just trying to get by, or we can live life. And so I had to ask myself, how do we get this abundance of life? I know how I got the abundance of life, but how can I show you guys how to get abundance of life? And the first thing that I came to the conclusion of was follow the way of the Lord. Sounds kind of cheesy, but I'll explain. So Deuteronomy 30:15-17 says, "See, I set before you today life and prosperity, death and destruction. For I command you today to love the Lord your God, to walk in his ways and keep his commands, decrees, and laws. Then you will live and increase, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land you are entering to possess. But if your heart turns away, and if you are not obedient, and if you're drawn away to bow down to other gods and worship them, I declare to you in this day that you will certainly be destroyed. You will not live long in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess." Now I know that that's circumstantial to their own circumstance, but I think that we can apply it to our lives. God is promising them, if you do things the way that I've set out for you, like, I'm going to bless you, I'm going to increase your numbers, I'm going to increase the land that you're living in, and everything's going to be great. But if you don't do it my way, like, you're not going to be able to survive. You're going to get destroyed. And basically, if they refuse to keep his commands and turn their eyes away from him and do it their own way, they won't be able to fulfill his promise. And sometimes following God's way is for our own protection. The 10 Commandments are kind of practical. I don't know anybody who's killing people who's saying their way of life is great. He gives us commands to ensure quality of life that will bring about the fullest life that they could have. And similarly, Proverbs 4:10 through 13 says, "Listen, my son, accept what I say, and the years of your life will be many. I guide you in the way of wisdom and lead you along straight paths. When you walk, your steps will not be hampered. When you run, you will not stumble. Hold on to instruction, do not let it go. Guard it well, for it is your life." And so going back to the whole Deuteronomy thing, like God sets out these instructions. We have an entire Bible full of it. And it's not like to be like, if you do this, this, and this, you'll be a great Christian and I'll love you. That's not what God's trying to say. He's trying to be like, look, I created you. I know how your life can be. If you follow these instructions, you can have the most best life that I've given for you. And Proverbs 8:34 through 35 says, "Blessed is the man who listens to me, watching daily at my doors, waiting at my doorway. Whoever finds me finds life and receives favor from the Lord." And I really think that really puts us into perspective, that if we aren't living our lives in proper relationship with God, we're missing out on something essential. Being in a relationship with God is part of having the most abundant life that we can have. Have you guys ever gone to a store and saw this great cabinet and you're like, I'm gonna buy that and put it in my house? And you buy it and it comes in a box and you have to put it together and you're like, oh, okay, well, it's got 6 pieces of wood and 20 screws, there's holes, I can do it myself. The instructions are there, but you're just gonna try it on your own. So you try to put it together and then halfway through you realize there's an extra piece of wood and 4 extra pieces of screws that you didn't think about, and if you had read the instructions, none of this would have happened and your entire project fails because you didn't listen. It's kind of the same principle. God has all the answers to abundant life. Why are we not listening? Why don't we follow the instructions? The next way that we can have abundant life is to not do it on our own. Let God be our help. Life is a roller coaster, up and down, in and out. There's going to be hard times, there's going to be good times, there's going to be sad times. That doesn't mean, when your life is sad, it doesn't mean that your life is not being lived at its fullest. It just means that that's just a part of life, and God is here to help us. Because He created us, we're supposed to be in relationship with Him. I don't think that God ever meant for us to do it on our own. And so Matthew 11:28 says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Jesus is giving us the entire answer. He's telling us, if your life is hard in this moment, come to me if you're weary and you're burdened, and I'm gonna give you rest. I'm gonna make it better for you, and you can still enjoy your life and still have an abundant life while you're going through rough times. Isaiah 49:13 says, "Shout for joy, O heavens, rejoice, O earth, burst into song, O mountains, for the Lord comforts His people and will have compassion on His afflicted ones." I don't know about you guys, but when I want to spontaneously burst into song, there's an emotion, there's a deep feeling inside that will cause my burst forth of song. And Isaiah is really saying it is so good that God is comforting His people. He's not going to leave us alone. He gives us everything, and He's there when things are hard. And similarly, Isaiah 40:29 through 31 says, "He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youth grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary, and they will walk and not be faint." And I kind of want to focus on this passage real quick. The aspect of hoping and putting your hope in the